configure price quote. So the CPQ is the buzzword, right? So configure price quote. What it really does, it includes all the activities you need to prepare a proposal for your product and or services. So now, as you can see over here on this slide, there are two definitions. There's one from Gartner. I'm pretty sure you will find 150 other definitions on the web as well. The point is you need to configure your product, you price them, and at the end you want to be able to hand out a quote. That's one of the fundamentals. Then I think one thing that's also very important before we get into any more details is to see where CPQ fits into your environment today. You have on the one hand side, you have a customer relationship management system. That could be your Salesforce.com system, that could be an SAP system, that could be any kind of system. And then you have an enterprise resource planning system, an ERP system, which also is referred to often as back office system. So that's a system that takes your orders, does your billing, and has HR functionality and so on. So now this configure price quote system sits right in between. Makes a lot of sense. You want to, when we go through an example flow on the CRM side, I talk to a customer, I know I want to sell products for $500K to that customer, but I haven't agreed really what product exactly I'm interested in. It's just, okay, I'm really like Steve who talked earlier, so I really like him. I want to sell him these products. He told me he's interested. We said, okay, $500K is what we're looking for. That's what I keep track of in CRM. Now, when I get a little bit more specific and say, what do you want to buy for these $500K? Then you want to configure this product. That's the time when you would use your configure price quote system. You find out what products are available, what prices do I have for these products, and I make you a quote for these products. And and once I know what products I quoted you, and hopefully Steve will accept at one point, then it would go into an ERP system. Now, what you can see at that point in time is it is very tightly integrated between the two, because we were initially talking about from a sales point of view. When I go into my enterprise resource planning point of view, I actually might have to manufacture these products. So, and I have to transfer this information over. So this whole CPQ configure price quote system is a key link between your CRM and your ERP system. And by the way, the Revy CPQ has an out-of-box integration with the SAP variant configuration, pricing, and order management. So that's something important to keep in mind.
Great.
Okay, so now I already mentioned it high level with this example on the previous slide, but when we take a moment and really look at what this end-to-end process looks like, there are a couple of steps over here. It's mainly 5 key steps and then 1 reporting step, and let's look at this a little bit more. Create a configuration, so you create a product. What we say is you configure a complex product. It doesn't have to be a complex product, but otherwise it wouldn't almost make sense to use a CPQ tool, right? So you have complex products. They have different features, different feature values, and you want to configure them. When you create these products, you might want to take into account which products you already bought before, which is referred to in this slide as install base. And you also want to integrate this into your CRM system. That goes back to the example I mentioned before, where you potentially in the system you have the 500K, and now you want to get more specific. So the 500K would be the opportunity. And then you configure, you have a process and documentation on how the products are set up and how you keep this all up to date. Once you have this first step, you know you have a valid product. That's a product you can build, that's a product you can sell. Now, the next thing is you want to apply the pricing. There could be a bunch of different prices. You could have a list price. You could have a customer-specific price, because you could have a deal-specific price. You could have a purchase agreement with someone that gives you a different price, and so on. So lots of different options for how the pricing would look like. So you need to determine where's the source of this pricing data, what pricing logic do you want to use. You want to have an integration with external pricing systems and pricing logic. That goes back to what I mentioned before with this integration with the CRM and the ERP system, because you don't want to reinvent the pricing in each and every system that you are, right? The pricing needs to be consistent from beginning to end. And you also want to connect the configurator and the pricing logic. So at the end of this step, I have a valid product that I can sell, that I can build, and I have the right price for this customer available. Now, we come to the third step, which would be the quote approvals. What we would have here is, now you might have a couple of products in there where you requested the price, where you need an approval for this discount. You might have products where you need an approval that you can actually sell these products to these customers, and so on. So various kinds of approvals, and there could be various complexity. You can request a number of people in sequence to approve something. You can have people in parallel approve something. So all these approval processes for product prices, the integration with the discounts, terms and conditions, all this is included in these quote approvals. At the end of this step, I basically know, again, my product, I can build my product, I can manufacture my product, I have the right product for the right customer, and I know I'm allowed to sell it or to offer it to the customer for this price, these products.
And this is typically where people sort of have to rely on email or phone calls or things like that. Those are some of the big challenges.
Exactly. So then you have potentially emails that go out, and somebody might not read the email. So you want to have this integrated into the process so that you don't have these separate tools that everyone uses slightly differently. Yep, absolutely.
Right.
So then, once you know that you're ready to create your quote, the quote again could look differently for different people. I can have, for example, one price for my complete product offering. I could show you the detailed price for each and every item line of my offering. I want to have my logo in there. I want to have my own terms and conditions in there. So there's a whole bunch of different things I could do to have a personalized or customized quote. And this process over here, that's what stands at the end of this process. I send out these quotes. I send it out electronically. I can also print it out and send it to someone. And you could build in more things which I don't show on this slide. That's why I'm not talking about this. But at the end of this, you have a quote that you can send to a customer and that the customer can evaluate. When we go to this next step, convert the quote to an order, that is hopefully you did a great job in selling it to the customer. The customer likes your quote and they want to convert this quote to an order now. I have certain functionality that I need when I do this step. For example, I could have quoted you a product for the 500K, but you come back with a purchase order of 420K. So the price much lower. So in this case, I want to make sure whatever prices I gave you are still valid if you order something different than what I quoted you, right? So that's functionality that's included in here. It's very important now, this integration. Think about the previous slide, the integration with the ERP system. I don't want to reinvent the wheel of what I sold you, what I told you the price is going to be, so I want to have a smooth transition into my order management system, which also allows me then to run some reports afterwards to see conversion rates, how many of my quotes were actually converted to an order, how many quotes do I actually needed to create one order, what was the average value, and so on. It gives me possibilities afterwards in reporting and analytics. At the end of this step, I should have an order in my order management system. Now, in this last step, reporting and analytics, what I typically want to see, and there's many different KPIs, key performance indicators or metrics that you could use, but one of the key things is this win-loss analysis that I just mentioned. For example, from a quote to an order, how many quotes do I need per order? What's the average value? Where is it mostly created? In which region? Which sales reps are above, below the standard, and so on. So that depends on every company, what reporting analytics you want. You also usually want to have these integrated across these systems. So that's a quick overview of the end-to-end process. And
Frankie, this is focused on a quote-to-order process, but this could also be a quote-to-contract process if that's the way that a company runs their business.
That's exactly right. So you could go ahead and you could have a contract lifecycle management in here. So when I have the legal documents that I want to tie into this process and say, this is my terms and conditions that I want to use, and for example, the customer wants to change something from net 30 payment terms to net 60, then you could do that if you tie in a contract lifecycle management system. Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Great. So just to paraphrase, first best practice sounds to me like it is you need to understand where the CPQ solution is going to fit into your IT landscape, whether you have a standalone CRM or maybe the CPQ is native, how you're going to integrate it into ERP and what capabilities of the ERP you want to take advantage of, and this sort of scope of the process you're going to cover with CPQ. So know where it fits and know the scope of the process. Does that sound right?
That sounds fair.